The old house stood on a hill, isolated and foreboding. It had been abandoned for years, its once vibrant paint now faded and peeling. The townsfolk whispered about the house, sharing tales of its haunted past and the strange occurrences that seemed to plague it. No one dared to go near it, especially after dark. Its windows, like vacant eyes, stared out at the town below. They seemed to follow anyone who dared to look in their direction, as if the house itself was watching, waiting. The glass was cracked and dirty, adding to the eerie atmosphere that surrounded the place. One humid night, a lone figure approached, drawn by an unseen force. The air was thick with anticipation, and the figure moved slowly, almost reluctantly, as if every step was a struggle against an invisible barrier. The closer he got, the more oppressive the atmosphere became. Each footstep echoed in the stillness, a stark contrast to the otherwise silent night. The sound seemed to reverberate off the trees and the house itself, amplifying the sense of isolation and dread. It was as if the house was amplifying the sound, making sure that anyone nearby would hear the approach. A cold wind whispered through the trees, carrying with it the scent of decay and neglect. The branches swayed and creaked, adding to the symphony of unsettling noises that filled the night. It was a wind that seemed to come from nowhere, chilling the figure to the bone. Lightning flashed, illuminating the house in a ghastly light. For a brief moment, the entire structure was bathed in an eerie glow, revealing its true, dilapidated state. The flash of light seemed to make the shadows deeper, the darkness more impenetrable. The figure stopped, a shiver running down his spine. Something felt wrong. It was an instinctual feeling, a primal sense of danger that made his heart race and his palms sweat. He could feel eyes on him, though he saw no one. He reached the front door, its paint peeling. The wood was warped and splintered, and the handle was rusted and cold to the touch. It was a door that had not been opened in years, and it resisted his attempts to turn the knob. As he reached for the handle, a blood-curdling scream pierced the night. He froze, heart pounding. The scream was unlike anything he had ever heard, filled with pain and terror. It seemed to come from deep within the house, echoing through the empty rooms and hallways. The scream seemed to emanate from within the house. It was a sound that carried with it the weight of years of suffering and despair. The figure hesitated, torn between the urge to flee and the compulsion to uncover the source of the scream. He took a deep breath and pushed the door open. The air inside was stale and musty, filled with the scent of rot and mildew. It was a smell that spoke of long-forgotten secrets and hidden horrors. It creaked open, revealing a darkness that devoured the light. The interior was shrouded in shadows, and the figure could barely make out the shapes of old furniture and debris. He stepped inside, the floorboards creaking under his weight, and the door slowly closed behind him, sealing him in the darkness. The air inside was stale and cold. Dust motes danced in the faint moonlight. The stench of decay filled his nostrils. He took a hesitant step forward, his footsteps echoing. The floorboards creaked ominously. He ran his hand along the wall, tracing cobwebs. The walls were damp and cold. A feeling of being watched washed over him. As he ventured deeper, he began to hear whispers, faint at first, barely audible. The whispers grew louder, swirling around him. They seemed to emanate from the walls, whispering secrets, unveiling horrors. He pressed his ear to the wall, his blood running cold. He had to escape this place. He stumbled through the darkness, heart pounding. Every shadow seemed to writhe and twist. The whispers followed him, taunting him. He had to find a way out. He reached a staircase, its steps covered in dust. As he ascended, each creak sounded like a death rattle. He could feel a presence nearby, something malevolent. He reached the top and found a long, narrow hallway. The walls were lined with portraits, their eyes following his every move. Suddenly, he felt a cold, clammy hand brush against his neck. He recoiled in horror, but there was no one there. He continued down the hallway, the unseen presence following him. At the end of the hallway, he faced a large, ornate mirror. Its silver backing was tarnished with age. He approached cautiously, drawn by an unknown force. The reflection in the mirror was not his own. It was the face of an old woman, her eyes milky white. She stared out at him, Her lips curled into a cruel smile. He stumbled back, heart pounding. The face remained, its eyes fixed on him. He blinked, and the face was gone. He reached out a trembling hand and touched the cold glass. The face reappeared, contorted in a silent scream. He turned and fled. The image burned into his mind. He ran through the house, mind racing. He had to escape the horrors within its walls. The whispers followed him, growing louder. He stumbled into a room, its windows boarded up. He fumbled for a light switch, but the light didn't come on. He was trapped in darkness. He could feel the presence of something evil nearby. Suddenly, he heard a low growl from the corner of the room. He froze, blood turning to ice. The growling grew louder, closer. He backed away, searching for a weapon. But there was nothing. The growling reached a crescendo and then silence. He fled blindly into the darkness. He ran until he could run no more. He collapsed on the floor, chest heaving. He was lost, trapped with the horrors that haunted its halls. He lay there, body trembling, mind numb with fear. He knew he would never forget this night. As dawn pierced through the cracks, he allowed himself to hope. He slowly got to his feet, body aching. He had to escape this place. He stumbled towards the front door and stepped into the sunlight. The horrors of the house would haunt his dreams forever.